Ruby will be revisiting all those interviews in When Ruby Wax Met, which starts this weekend. She joins us now live this morning. Good morning, Ruby. Great to have you on the show. Honestly, what a wonderful series this is going to be. I loved all of these interviews first time around. And it's really interesting that you've actually never watched any of them since until now. Why is that?
Well, I thought I'll watch them when they're back on TV. So I had to wait 25 years. And when they put me in a studio and I saw what I looked like, I never thought I was attractive. I said to the producer, why didn't you tell me I was so cute? Couldn't believe it. But it's interesting. I think maybe it was worth it to look back and think, well, who was this creature running around? So sometimes I thought, oh my God, she's having the best time, especially when I bond with Carrie Fisher, and you could see it was the beginning of a love affair, and then it continued for 30 years. Oh, look at her.
And that is what
I
happened.
mean, it was sort of, it happened. It was very romantic.
And you did. I mean, a lot of the times that you were potentially only ever going to have 10 minutes with some of these celebrities, and actually they literally opened their homes to you, and you ended up staying for days with some. And we're watching Carrie Fisher. She became a really good friend of yours off the back of this.
Yeah, I mean, it was like I was not that popular in school, and then suddenly there was prom queen. So I had another chance, and what a joy. Can you imagine to be friends with Carrie? And the mind was so sharp and so brilliant. And I don't know if I would have met her on the street. But then Bette Midler, Goldie, we stayed friends. Then Donald Trump, that interview lasted a very short time, and he literally threw me off his plane at 33,000 feet, which is tricky. And then threw my crew out in Arkansas. We had no plans on going to Arkansas, but we found him again, and I interview Melania, and you see her when she's still a human being. And, well, OJ, Bill Cosby, they didn't fall for me either. The women really love me, and I love them, but the men, it gets tricky.
Well,
they don't like a smart woman.
Well, Ruby, it's strange you said, because you mentioned Donald Trump, and as you say, he wanted you off the private jet really quickly. And I remember reading somewhere that you actually said you felt like you were there at the point where the monster began, is how you described the personality. And even then, he was telling you he wanted to be president, and no one, I'm guessing, in a million years would have believed it was going to happen then. But he was saying those words to you at that point.
I thought he was joking. So I started laughing, and that was the beginning of the end. And he frightened me so much that I started asking probably the stupidest questions I've ever asked somebody. So in a way, when somebody treats you like that, you become that. And things were coming out of my mouth. I don't know what I was saying, but luckily on TV, that's okay. It looks like I'm doing it on purpose, but I'm not. He's really throwing me because he reminds me of, well, my dad a little bit, that kind of disapproving look and thinking women were not in their right minds. So it wasn't, to me, it was a horrible interview. You know, you feel a little toxic, as if somebody's, that violence and that anger came right at me, as did with Bill Cosby. OJ was easier to interview than both of them, because at least you knew he was he was a sociopath. I don't know what he was, but he lied to himself. So part of him was quite charming, and the other part was just put the whole thing behind him. Mm-hmm. Except I interviewed him for 17 hours, and eventually he started to get worn down. And then it ends really in an interesting way, where he tries to stab me with a banana. Yeah. So those were my shows.
It's looking back at so many of those moments, Ruby, and like I said, I loved the series first time around, and I loved it because of you. You were so different to anything else that was on the telly. You were so funny. You weren't scared to ask questions that other people would have absolutely shied away from. Do you not watch back now with real pride and happiness, in fact, because you were sort of going along a very different route? No one else had really been there.
I don't know what I think. I know that I'm not good sitting behind a desk and whipping it out every 2 seconds of how amusing I am, or trying to make them into even more of a icon than they are. I'm not that type. So my idea was I get with them. The PR would say you have 10 minutes, and then it's like you get your foot in the door. And if I made them laugh or I really had a great conversation, they'd say to the PR, "Go away," and then sometimes it would last days. And that wouldn't happen anymore. PRs are now the dictators, and they'd say, that's it. But I remember, well, Tom Hanks is an example. That was a setup. It was a comedy sketch, and I told him what the joke was, and he played it so well. I got I told him. It's just, you're working with, like, you had somebody who's brilliant. I upped the game. When you had somebody like Trump, I went down, literally went down in the airplane. So I loved it. I think
it's an interesting one.
You
Almost, as you say, you kind of you feed off your guests, don't you? I know we're having you're dropping a little bit on us, Ruby. Hopefully we'll get you back here in a second properly. I have to ask you about Madonna, because she caught you trying on her clothes.
Well, I'll tell you, my job was entertainment at that time. And so my job was to make it amusing. Now, that interview wasn't going as well as I thought. I mean, again, when you look at it, people go, that's a great interview. Again, I'm asking questions. She's confused. I'm confused because she around bed. I can't interview somebody when people are breathing down my throat. Which camera she wants. She chose the wrong one. I was really mildewed and young looking, and she chose the harder one, which was supposed to be on anything. So at the end, I thought, oh, let's bump it up. Let's make the show funny. So her suitcase was there, so I put on her clothes while she was out. And
oh, Ruby, we're having a few problems, aren't we? Look, while we try and get that fixed, here's a little bit of a look at some of all of those clips. Ruby, sorry, I know we're having a few difficulties there. We just want to thank you very much for coming on. I can't wait to watch this. It'll bring back so many memories of having watched it first time around. When Ruby Wax Met, it starts on Sunday at 9 p.m. on BBC Two. I'm guessing this could only be Series 1 because there's lots of content in there. Ruby, we'll see, no doubt, Series 2 as well. Thanks for joining us this morning, Ruby.
Thank you.
Sorry
I faded in and out.
Not at all, not at all. No, good to see you.
Don't forget, you can watch full episodes of Lorraine on the ITV Hub and all the best clips, compilations and playlists right here on our channel. Just subscribe now and you'll never miss an upload. Click here to watch another video similar to this one, or click here to head to our channel's homepage to explore all of our exciting videos.